right, New Orleans. Welcome to the Jack Clegg Show. This is the Tuesday night edition. You're listening to WGSO 990 AM, WGSO.com. And if we press the right buttons, you're listening to a podcast or watching a podcast on X or YouTube. That's if everything's gone right and I haven't screwed something up. Anyway, well, let me be one of the first to announce that the AP, that's the AP News Service, which is a big deal. It's an important news service, has announced a winner in the New Hampshire primary. Now, with only 17% of the vote in, I'm not going to give it a great amount of weight, but anyway, it's the first one, and one of our show favorites, one of our fans, Jill Crohan, sent in the information, and the AP has called the race for Donald Trump. And he has, with 17% of the vote in, 54%. And in second place is Nikki Haley with 43%. As the show goes on and you are listening to other news, or if you, after the show, listen, I'm not guaranteeing this, but that is the first official announcement was the AP's announcement. Okay, so that's it. Okay, tonight, let me run through some of the topics we're going to talk about tonight. And our callers on our call-in line, 504-556-9696, can call in and ask questions about or probe deeper some of these issues. Or if they have another topic which they want to discuss, we'll try to get to it tonight. Okay, topic one, I don't know how to really phrase this one. I was expecting more to come of it. Last Thursday on our show, and when I was preparing for it, there was an article, there were several articles stating that a number of federal agency employees from 22 different agencies and a number of staffers in Congress were going to walk off the job today. Today was the day, and they were going to walk off in protest to America's response to what's going on in the Gaza Strip. Our position, they were, at least this was what it was attributed to them, these people were saying that we should be more in favor of the Palestinian position or the Hamas position rather than the Israeli position. We should get a ceasefire right now. And that was supposed to happen today. And so I listened today periodically and, tried to find out. I went online, not a word about it. So if they did walk out and protest, there weren't enough of them to make much of a big deal. So the question is, should federal employees be able to do that? My position, no. If you do want to protest, do it after work or do it on weekends. Don't do it to take off work. Okay. Another topic tonight. Once again, and this is happening all over the United States, this is happening state after state after state. But remember Congressman Fire Alarm? This was a progressive Democrat. He's a congressman from New York. His name is Jamal Bowman. Remember him? He's the guy that there was a vote going on in the Congress that he didn't want the vote to be taken, so he pulled the fire alarm and then ran out the back door, but didn't know that he was videotaped during the whole thing. And he is up for some kind of ethics violations and some other things like that. Okay, well, he has proposed a $14 trillion resolution to provide reparations and free college for African Americans in the United States. Okay, we know this has happened in state after state after state. But the problem is, where are we going to get $14 trillion? I'm not even talking about the merits of this. Where is this going to come from? I don't know. And this gentleman hasn't given an answer. So that's another topic. If you want to discuss it, that's fine. if you do, let's talk about the money. How are we going to get that money? Remember, during the pandemic in 2020, okay, we gave over $3.6 trillion to Americans. Okay. That was more than our revenue. That was more than we pulled in. So it resulted in a deficit. I don't know where you're going to get the $14 trillion from, but maybe those details aren't important. Okay. To all the listeners who hear about these things, don't let your emotions get the best of you. Just listen, because most of these plans are not fully thought out. Most of these plans are more to get someone publicity, like pulling a fire alarm to end a congressional vote. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that. All right, another topic we're going to talk about tonight is a Chicago suburb, Naperville. I grew up not too far from Naperville. I lived in the city, grew up in the city, went to high school in the city. My parents' home was in the city when I left and came down to Louisiana for college. But Naperville, nice, very, very rich. These were the rich folks. They have very nice houses, 2 or 3 cars in the driveway, very nice. So Josh McBroom, that's his name, McBroom. He is a member of the Naperville City Council. And now, you've all been following the immigration issue where Governor Abbott of Texas and Governor DeSantis of Florida, but mostly Governor Abbott, has been sending busloads and busloads of illegal immigrants to the sanctuary cities, such as New York. And the true colors of the politicians and the people there have come out. They don't want them. They don't want them. And in Chicago, they don't want them. In New York, they don't want them. They don't know what to do with them. Thursday night show, last Thursday, we talked about a school, a high school in New York, where the students were told that they were going to have to go to virtual learning. Remember virtual learning? That was that nonsense they did during the COVID shutdowns, where after the virtual learning, our standardized test scores dropped dramatically because nobody learned. It was horrible. So they did that to a school in New York City because they needed a place to put the immigrants. So they put them in a high school, and they told the kids, you couldn't go to school, you got to learn. And the parents went crazy. Well, this gentleman in Naperville, Josh McBroom, Naperville, Illinois, has a solution. He says, quote, we do have an affluent community with a lot of homes, a lot of big homes. So he's proposing a sign-up sheet for locals to host migrants in their extra rooms. Okay. Anybody have any comments on that? We can talk about that tonight. That's kind of insanity. Newsweek. Okay, a minute to go through this one, and we're going to take a break. Newsweek has reported what our borders are. You know who our borders are is? That's Vice President Harris. Has a solution to our immigrant crisis. This is the most telling story about this administration. This solution to this massive breach of U.S. law and policy. The solution is give them a pathway to citizenship. That's the solution. So you got a handful of topics tonight. If you're interested, call in. We'll chat about them. Maybe you've got something even more interesting than what I've mentioned. Okay, we're going to take a break now. The Jack Clegg Show on WGSO. This is the Tuesday night edition, and we'll be back in a few seconds.
Hi, I'm Colin.
And this is Dave.
Please join us on Liberty or Lockdown on Thursdays at 5 p.m.
Be there.
Hello, y'all. Let's talk daily from 4 to 5 about our town. The Century Clock Show is powered by Vinyltech, the Gulf Coast premier exterior home improvement expert.
Roberts, every Saturday, Do you have notes in your house? Well, I did. I explored the spirit guides that you do and see that with ghost hunter. I ran the Haunted Museum near the spirit shop in Frenchville. Come to a ghost hunting class and sharpen your communication skills with the other side. I'll teach you how to, as you learn and go ghost hunting, join the Victorian seance, and explore the beyond. Did you know that you can even plan an entire haunted night at the museum for your private party, 7 days, 7 nights? Join us at LegendAreaNewOrleans.com.
Hey, it's Christian on behalf of PCS Appliance Direct. PCS Appliance Direct has moved to City Park. Go now to the current facility room, 432 North PCS Appliance Direct is liquidating their current inventory. Up to 25% off appliances like GP, Ceron, Blazewood, Monaco, Cafe, Tire, and many more. Go call PCS Appliance Direct Highway Code 766-0738. Take advantage of this information. PCS Appliance Direct Highway Code 766-0738. Hey, this is Christian Garrick. I'm excited about my new show on WGSO 990 Monday through Friday, noon to 2 p.m. There are a lot of things going on in this country and in the city that are concerning. New reports. You might be afraid to speak out for fear of canceling culture or losing your job. The Christian Garrick Show on WGSO is your platform, noon to 2, weekdays, right here on 990 a.m. Boy, have we got a show for you this week. Ever wonder where all the great songs have gone? Well, we found them. Hey everyone, I'm Matthew, your host of 70s Deja Vu. And once again, I'll be looking in the rearview mirror, and I'll see you in the backseat. Join me for some great music, all selected to get you going on 70s Deja Vu. Sunday morning at 7 a.m., right here on 990 a.m. WGSO.
We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn, but that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
All right, New Orleans, welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the Jack Clegg Show on WJSO 990 AM and WJSO.com, as well as hopefully X and YouTube. Okay, we had some callers call in. We have Matthew, who may not be at home right now. Matthew, where are you?
I'm at home, discovering the joys of living on a boat while living on land. Due to the low water pressure situation in our house.
Okay.
Toilets are not flushing the way they normally would. You have to carry the water over the head, pour it in the tank manually.
Is that a result of some pipes being frozen, or is it just low water?
Apparently, the mains in Jefferson Parish are from the main station along Jefferson Highway ruptured.
Oh, that's not good.
And so they have the emergency crews down there, and they're fixing to. They're saying that it should be done before too much longer. Get an emergency repair done.
Okay.
This is, I guess, in the best run municipality, and Jefferson Parish is run okay. That can happen, but
sure. Well, it's one nice thing that your neighbor to the east, Orleans Parish, may have some bigger problems than yours. So maybe it makes it a little more tolerable.
Well, yeah, because Orleans has a number of different problems, which actually, though, before I get to what's going on in Naperville, my prediction for the future, if Donald Trump comes in at the last poll numbers that he had, and Nikki Haley came in at her poll numbers, she performed as expected, and she will go on to South Carolina.
Okay.
If she comes in well below what the last poll said that she was going to, she'll drop out. because even Reid Hoffman doesn't feel like just throwing money into a fire pit and burning it.
That's not an irrational prediction.
Right. If she comes in better than those poll numbers, she will be declared the winner because she performed better than expected.
Right.
South Carolina.
And it doesn't matter that the votes could have been made by Democrats or independents who aren't Republicans. So I've always had kind of skeptical view toward a political party's primary. This is a primary for the Republicans.
Right.
But somehow the enemy gets to vote in it.
Well, you see, that's the problem you're making. You're calling them the enemy. They're our honorable opponents, the rightful rulers of the United States of America.
Right.
They're the defenders of democracy.
Sure
Why?
they are. Yes,
Their name, Democrat.
There you go. There you go. We'll talk about Naperville. Go ahead. Hit the button.
All right. So first thing that came to mind was, gee, y'all voted for this. And by that, I mean, I think Biden took the district by like 60 to 70%.
Sure.
Did not they know that this was going to be one of the things that was going to happen? Or did they think that somehow the migrants, upon crossing the Rio Grande, would all have their legs broken and couldn't travel?
That's right. Their fins would be stepped on so they couldn't swim across. That's what happens. Yes.
Right. So, yeah. And the other thing, more sympathetic, is you notice that he's asking for voluntary contributions because we still have, even though it's been scarcely ever used, the Third Amendment.
Yes, we do.
Which means that the government can't quarter people in their property.
Unless they decide that in an entire neighborhood we're going to take eminent domain and we're going to let the homeowners stay in there as a manager, but we're going to fill up every room, reminding you of the Bolshevik revolution in 1917. That would be clever.
Amy Comey Barrett wouldn't have a problem with that.
Let me raise another point, which my producer, Kobe, tonight, we were talking about. And that was, what do you think is going to happen in the household, in this very, very, very nice household? Okay, let's say it's a 6-bedroom house. The kids are kind of grown up. Maybe you got one kid there and the rest of the rooms are empty. And you invite some immigrants in.
Well, these are supposed to be immigrant families.
Well, let's say it's an immigrant family or 2 immigrant families, even. What are they going to do? Are they going to provide domestic services? Are they going to provide agricultural services in the yard? What do you think is going to happen? I think this is, for the liberal point of view, okay, let's just invite them in. But what happens over time is when they decide to stay, somebody at the house is going to say, what are these people contributing to the household? What are they doing? Your thoughts?
Well, you see, it depends on how much college they've had.
You mean the migrants or the
people in the household?
Let's assume they've got some.
Okay, they've had some college, and they probably feel obligated to take care of these poor waifs who are victims of slide in your cause, global warming, racism, white colonial imperialism.
Sure.
And so they will probably be very willing to take care of them until they just discover the hard way that they've actually got, a few MS-13 gang members living in their house. And
that's
on the floor.
That's a very dramatic Discovery, and I think that's kind of funny. That's a hilarious sitcom.
Well, I don't know exactly how funny it is unless you've got a really dark sense of humor.
Well, I do. So that would be one thing that would serve them right. The other would be somebody has a reversal of their business fortunes, and they're running out of money, and they're in this house where they're feeding two families, their own family, trying to pay the electric bills, so forth and so on. There are children running around the house and they need to be clothed and so forth and so on. What's going to happen then? So,
Well,
we all know human nature. When you say to somebody, do you want to help out? Oh, yeah. Well, there's a lot of difference between saying, oh, yeah, and actually performing the functions month after month after month after month after month. Because I don't see a plan in place. We don't even know.
Jack, I have breaking news.
Go ahead.
CNN said that in exit polling it conducted in New Hampshire, it found that a staggering 70% of the people who voted for Haley were not registered Republicans. Breaking news.
Well, thank you. No surprise there. That's exactly why. And then this particular primary shouldn't be called a primary. It really shouldn't, because when members of the opposition party can vote in it, they're going to vote for not the number one contender. They're going to vote for a challenger. The more the challenger can fight with the number one contender, the better for them. So,
the more resources he has to burn up beating them up.
Exactly.
Well, I'm going to go so I can leave Bill the Patriot enough time to get on and give us his good word.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in, Matthew. Have a good evening.
All right. Talk to you Thursday.
All right, man. All right. So we're about to take a break in about 10 seconds, and CNN has proven our point that it's just not fair. Anyway, we're going to come back after the break. This is Jack Clegg Show. We'll be back in a few moments.
WGSO, or see what I have to say on Facebook. William Wallace for America.
This is Kate Delaney from America Tonight. The show kicks on at midnight, and I'm loving the overwhelming support in New Orleans. What a group of fantastic listeners here on WGSO 990 AM. Join me every morning to catch up on what I call the buzz in your backyard and mine. You hear some of the most interesting people on the planet from the world of business, politics, sports, and all just intriguing people with a story to tell. If you're around, give us a call. Don't worry, I'll spit out the number plenty of times in the air. Let's agree to meet at midnight right here on WGSO 990 AM in New Orleans.
Easy Pet Shop and Rescue is a non-profit volunteer run rescue. We provide adoption services and care for homeless animals across the New Orleans metro area. We also offer pet supplies and grooming services at our downtown and Marigny locations. The shops are located at 839 Spain Street and 513 Duane Street and are open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. weekdays and noon to 6 on Saturdays, noon to 5 on Sundays. We can be found on the web at BigEasyPetShop.com. Support local animals in need by shopping and adopting with Big Easy Animal Rescue.
Hi, this is Kevin Carr, host of Black Guys at the Movies. Listen every Sunday at 8 p.m. on WGSO 990 AM, the community voice of Progressives.
You'll never get a bum steer at Joey's Off-Road Meats, 2324 Harris Road, Chalmers. An old-style butcher shop with a common in. Also try Joey's Grill, using all fresh meats from the butcher center. Fourth-generation butchers from the North River. You will never get a bum steer at Joey's Off-Road Meats, 2324 Harris Road, Chalmers. 504-279-6592.
You can check out He Said, She Said on a new day.
Hump Day.
A new day that will still be discussing and debating the hot topics.
Wednesdays at 5.
Here,
Louisiana Radio Network, I'm Colleen Crane. State Senator Cleo Field made the announcement many expected. In a statement released today, Field says he wanted to be clear that he would be a candidate to represent the newly drawn 6th Congressional District. LSU political science professor Robert Hogan says Field's name recognition and his record should help his campaign in this 6th district.
has a track record in state legislature. Now, that our chief voters in this district is running for this time of the
And Governor Jeff Landry has signed his first bills into law. They include the new congressional district map and a measure that will bring party primaries to federal elections in 2026. RockPolitics.com publisher Jeremy Alford says the governor wanted closed primaries for nearly all elections, but didn't push the issue.
I do not think Jeff Landry tried to really bully anyone or do the kind of hardball political tactics that he is known for.
Tiger fans, are you looking for the latest news on all things LSU? Then Tiger Rag Magazine is your go-to source. Whether you pick up the magazine or browse over to the website, Tiger Rag Magazine provides you with the most up-to-date information on all the sports, university, and recruiting news that matters to you. Find it at your local newsstand or online at tigerrag.com. Let's face it, we all know that the recruiting scene at LSU can get a little wild. Don't fret. Now more than ever, Tiger Rag Magazine is staying ahead of the game when it comes to name, image, likeness regulations. Thanks to our Tiger Rag Magazine experts and analysts, we can help you understand what it means to LSU and how you can stay informed on this rapidly changing landscape. Plus, our website makes it easy for fans to get their hands on all the information they need about LSU athletics. Get your subscriptions today. So if you're looking for in-depth coverage of everything LSU, look no further than Tiger Rag Magazine. Available on newsstands or online, tigerrag.com.
Hello, I'm Cynthia. I invite you to tune in 4 to 5 daily, and please invite a friend or two. Y'all will take a tour with me of our town from 4 to 5 daily as we taste Montana's cuisine, meet interesting business leaders in the marketplace, and enjoy encouragement and motivation from spiritual leaders and from fellow brothers and sisters in our community. This show is a voice for our town to speak. I welcome, encourage, and respect the different voices and viewpoints. Call in to talk about our town 4 to 5 daily.
Tune in to Chew on This, Saturdays at noon on WGSO. Tell us what you're cooking or ask us how to cook it with Don Clement and Patty B. We'll share recipes, cooking techniques, everything from sous vide to grilling. Got a favorite kitchen gadget? Let us know about it. Your grandma's secret sauce? Now we're talking. Tips from home cooks for gourmet cooking at your home. Join Don Clement and Patty B for Chew on This, Saturdays at noon on WGSO.
Come on, Mahal.
WGSO 990 AM is the only locally owned and operated talk station in New Orleans. We feature 20 local hosts discussing a variety of topics in an era when the daily newspaper is being discontinued and our competitors are out-of-state media conglomerates. We ask you, our listeners, to support local programming on a local station. To advertise or sponsor one of our great shows, contact me at jeff@wgso.com or call 504-669-6076.
The fastest growing conservative talk show in the South is now on 5 days a week on WGSO 990.
That's right. American Ground Radio is moved from Saturdays to Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 p.m.
American Ground Radio is based out of Louisiana and is grounded in the ideas that founded our country.
American Ground Radio is a show for everyone who believes there is greatness within each of us.
So tune in Monday through Friday starting at 8 p.m.
on the community voice of the Crescent City, WGSO 990.
All right, New Orleans. Welcome to the third segment of the Jack Clegg Show, the Tuesday night edition. And we have one of our all-time favorite callers who's going to tell us in 1 minute what it means to own a whistle. Is he there?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Play ball. When you have to fight to win.
Right.
Good evening, brother and sister pro-life whistleblowing parents, patriots, pet owners, police, military, cowboys, and cowgirls. Wake up, stand up, rise up, and build up. Protect, preserve, and defend up the integrity of our precious right to vote. Do you want to make America safe again and abortion-free again? Do you want to make America godly again? Do you want to make America great again? Number one, get out and vote. Number two, help other family and friends people to vote. Number three, stop fraudulent voting of all kinds and protect the integrity of the vote. One for the Father, one for the Son, one for the Holy Spirit, and one for America.
Okay. Well, that must have been a malfunctioning whistle there at the very end. Thank you for that call. Okay, before we get to our next caller, I did want to review one of the I think one of the biggest stories, the most revealing story. And gosh, if you listen to the news or you listen to any of this, the immigration issue is our number one issue. It has surpassed the economy. The economy is a big enough issue, and actually, in many respects, if you just think logically and think ahead, the worse the immigration problem becomes, the worse our economics are going to become. Now, are they going to hurt the rich? No, they're still going to have money. But for those that are on their way up, either blue collar, white collar, whatever, those people are going to have huge competition for things. It's already almost impossible to own an EV. The cars are too expensive. And rental properties, wherever and however, and we can cover that one evening here, the price of rental property and the price of new homes is skyrocketing. So does having an extra 20 million people here make it better? I don't think so. So the issue that really has me passionate is our border czar, Vice President Harris, her answer to how to solve the current border crisis is to give them all that have come here a pathway to citizenship. That's what Newsweek reported today. She says, and there's a quote here. I wrote down the quote because where did she say? The final line of the quote was, "There's no problem in making them citizens." Well, yes, there is. Yes, there is. Right now, I mean, there are many of the illegal aliens. Well, first of all, number one, we do not know where they are. Is that true? It's true. We don't know where there are millions, and we don't know who they are. We're not tracking them. Why would we? For those that have come here and said the magic words, I want political asylum, okay, they get a court date. You know how long the court dates are from today? 6 years. 6 and 7 years. What does President Biden want to do? Oh, we need more judges. The problem is incentivizing coming to America. There is no downside. There's no downside. When President Trump was in the presidency, what did he do? Well, they had a remain in Mexico policy. So you came to the port of entry, you made your request, and then you went back in Mexico. And Mexico took care of these people, and it stopped the influx, because who wants to travel all the way from whatever country you're coming from and stay in Mexico, just sitting there, not knowing what's going to happen, not able to work, not able to do anything? It disincentivizes coming here illegally. So, anyway, Rusty, is Rusty around? Rusty, how are you this evening?
Pretty good, Jack. All those topics you were bringing up, pretty good.
Good. You got a better one?
I got one that you didn't bring up.
Okay,
but
good.
I wanted to touch on a little bit what you said already.
Okay.
You don't live in New Orleans? I mean, you don't live in Jefferson?
No, I live in Orleans Parish.
Oh, okay. I had the impression. That's why I was surprised to hear you not to know anything about the water issue.
I live in Mid-City. I live in Mid-City.
Mid-City. I misunderstood that.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing, this rent situation. I talked to you. You probably don't remember. You 2 or 3 times when you had this show NFL Jack.
Oh yeah.
About this issue,
mm-hmm.
And to me, it's one of the biggest issues unsaid in our nation. And okay, this is the issue that I had in mind when I decided to call your show.
Sure.
Jack, who made up the rule that 2 or 3 states decide who's going to be president? who came up with this concoction that from caucus in Iowa, and then New Hampshire, and I think the next one's South Carolina, because basically New Hampshire is a purple state with a lot of left-wing people. South Carolina is where Haley comes from.
Sure.
And she was governor. So it's pretty much a setup. I don't, I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little bit partial toward the census, but I would accept Donald Trump just as well. And, but I mean, I don't think it's right for three or four states, to decide who's going to be our nominee. And I don't know what the reasoning is behind that. So I'm going to let you speak to see if you can tell me something.
Well, there are two things. One, let's talk about the primary system. The primary system is designed for a political party. The Republican Party, they have theirs, and the Democrats have theirs. However, and I don't know who dropped the ball on this, but in New Hampshire, as we're watching now, at the Republican primary in New Hampshire, Democrats and independents get a say in who the Republican Party's candidate should be. To me, I don't understand that. It's a failure. Okay. Now, the main point is it's tradition. It's been Iowa, New Hampshire, and then we've moved to a system where there's Super Tuesday, where multiple states are on one day. Okay.
Right.
And then there's another multiple. There are two more multiples. Okay. Which I think the political parties do that to save themselves some money. But I want to take what you said, and there's a friend of mine, Denise, who makes a really good point, and it's hard to quibble with what she's saying, and that is this. She's somebody who really questions the value of the Electoral College. And she's somebody who believes that it should be per vote. One man, one vote. You count all the votes. The guy who gets the most votes wins. The girl who gets the most votes wins, and so forth. And okay, but we know now, because we've all studied this in history and civics back when they used to have something called civics. We know why they made Electoral College, because the most populous states could overwhelm 4 or 5 or 6 other states just by their own population.
Yes.
So what we did was we formed the Electoral College. Allows each state to have a number of electors. How many electors do they have? Well, the same number of seats in Congress and Senate is their electors. So like Louisiana, I think we have 6 congressmen and we have 2 senators. So we have a total of 8 electors here in Louisiana. Okay. I'm being told I got to take a break. I'm going to leave the lecture of Electoral College. Hey, can you hold on to the break?
Oh, sure.
Okay, Rusty, we'll get back and I'll talk to you about her big concern, as well as a concern of many, that the Electoral College has seen its brightest days decades ago. And we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, folks, this is the Jack Clegg Show. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in a few seconds. All right, New Orleans. Welcome to the fourth and final segment of the Jack Clegg Show, the Tuesday night edition. And we were talking with one of our favorite callers, Rusty, about some of the, let's call it, inherent malfunctions of the Electoral College system. And as I said before, a friend of mine, Denise, asked me the question. He said, "Why don't you talk about that tonight? It's a good topic." And the part that, okay, we know what the Electoral College is. Okay, now in each state it works a little differently, but the number of electors equals the number of seats in Congress and in the Senate. As I said before, Louisiana has 8. We have 2 senators and we have 6 congressmen, and so we have a total of 8. California, 55. Texas, 38. Illinois, 20-something or 30-something. So it's spread out throughout the country, with the large states certainly having more. But the question is, it's really from state to state how you get them. Like if you're in a particular district, or some states winner take all. If you win the popular vote, you get all 11 of your state's electors. But it's not uniform throughout the country. And what we've been finding out over the last 40 years is there are things called swing states. And this is kind of what Denise's problem was, and it's a good problem, and that is we've got this entire country where everybody's voting, but those who win the swing states, for instance, when in 2016, when Trump ran against Hillary Clinton had more popular votes, many more popular votes. I think she had like 2 million more popular votes than Trump. But Trump had 304 electoral votes, and you need 276. So he had 24 and 4, 28 electoral votes more. So he won, but he had less than the popular vote. And so the question is, do we fix that? And what do we put in its place? I'm not in favor of the idea that we should have one person, one vote, because I think you'd have the populous states, New York and California and coast states, controlling the outcome. Okay, so, but at the other hand, the other side of it, I think we've got to find a way to get away from the swing states. Now, why do we have them? I think the political parties like it that way, and that they can focus on their efforts and their money on just a couple of locations. That's my position on that. Rusty, what do you think?
You could very well be right. Normally, I would agree with your friend who says one man, well, one person, one vote.
Sure.
Normally, I would agree with it. It sounds good and right. But unless they can do something, which I'm about to say, which is very controversial, most professionals want to steer away from it. But unless we have a right to secede from the union, I believe they should keep it the way it is with the electoral votes. Because it gives those states, like you said, the smaller states, a little more of an edge so they won't be overwhelmed by the bigger states.
Right.
And the only way I can see getting around that is if they ever get overwhelmed and they feel like the federal government and the central government has taken over completely their lives, let them free to get out of the union. And I don't see anybody pushing for that. Not many anyway. And so I think they should keep it like you said. As far as the big money states, well, Iowa and New Hampshire, I wouldn't consider big money states.
No, they're not. No.
So, in South Carolina, I don't think. But again, it just seems to me, some people, like they said, Haley got $20 million in Iowa, even though she didn't win. I mean, when I say she didn't win, she didn't come in second. She came in third. But she got $20 million from a lot of left-wing people.
Sure.
And so on. And again, But if I can give one more thought,
Go ahead,
20,
go
30
ahead.
seconds,
Go
and
ahead.
then I'm going to let you
Thanks.
go.
Another call.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Right. This is it. I'm not a fan of Haley, Nikki Haley.
Okay.
But I am afraid of one thing happening here. I don't even want a woman becoming president. I told you that
You
couple
mentioned
weeks.
that 2 weeks ago. Yes.
Yeah, I think men who are drafted to put their lives on the line, that's their position to be commander in chief. But on the other hand, I think if you still go after her too much, you can alienate the woman vote.
Of course.
So you have to keep that in mind, because it seems to me she's only where she is today because she's appealing to women voters as the contrary opposite vote to what men are doing. So, again, it sounds contradictory, but she could call Trump to ruse.
And I concur in principle with what you're saying. That we need to have some kind. We don't have conscription for women. If we have a draft, women don't go. They're not drafted. And I don't see any time in our future where women will be drafted if we are going to war. They serve in many other countries, but not here.
Yeah.
Rusty, thanks for calling. I got another caller. We'll take it. We'll see you Thursday, or hear from you Thursday. The flaming conservative. Okay, let's flame on. Conservative, how are you this evening?
Good evening, Jack.
How you doing?
Good evening. Great. How about you?
I'm well. What you got?
Yeah. First of all, let me get started. Nikki Haley is a Jezebel slut for the Democrats.
Well, I think she thinks she's a conservative. I think she thinks she's a Republican. I do believe that in New Hampshire, where Democrats and independents are able to participate in the Republican primary, I would have a real question over the number of votes they have cast for the second place finisher. And the purpose of that is to hurt the first place guy, which is Trump. So I agree with you. I think that really, and we're not stupid. We know this is going on. So I agree with you on that turn. I agree with you.
She's the female version of George Bush Jr. And you remember the governor before John Bel Edwards, Bobby Jindal?
Yes, I remember Bobby. Yep, I do.
Yeah, he was a big disappointment too.
And yeah, I hate to say it because I was not a populist when I was growing up. I kind of thought that, the populist or nationalist idea was way too exclusionary. But the older I get and the more I see and the more I read and the more I know history, I gotta say, if you're not an American first guy, I don't quite understand what you're doing.
I was a Democrat when I first registered to vote at age 18. I still voted for Ronald Reagan, but Bill Clinton cured me of being a Democrat.
I think so. And here's the thing about Bill Clinton is that charming guy, and people, well, it's a real charming. You meet him, and he's sort of. But we learned after he was gone what he did, and he screwed up our banking system. He screwed up home mortgages, and it's easy to make a decision on one day that makes people happy at the moment, when you don't think of the long-term consequences. And that's what he's doing. That's exactly what Biden is doing. And that's the theme of the Democratic leaders. Hey, thanks for calling in. We got to go. And I appreciate you calling in and sharing your insight, pal. We'll talk with you later.
All right, Jack.
All righty. Okay, folks, thanks for calling in and thanks for listening to us this evening on the Jack Clegg Show. We'll be back Thursday night at 7 o'clock, and we have some hot topics to discuss then. Have a good week, Wednesday and Thursday. All right, later.